Welcome to the Family Beacon podcast from Minnesota Family Council with hosts Grace Evans and Moses Brattrud. Stay informed on the top stories on life, family, and religious freedom. Get the facts, stand for truth. Hello and welcome back to the Family Beacon podcast. My name is Grace Evans. I am here with my awesome co-host, Moses Brattrud. It has been, 2 weeks since we've been in front of the camera together, Moses?
Yeah, 3 weeks, I think.
3 weeks, maybe. Yeah, so we are back at it. We are super excited. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things on today's podcast. We'll be talking about how some pregnancy resource centers are being targeted here in the state of Minnesota. We're going to give you all the updates on that. We'll be discussing how we can continue to fight the culture war after the Lethal Pro Act has passed, because it is so essential that we stay in the fight right now more than ever. We'll also, if we have time, we'll discuss how the Satanic Temple has opened its first religious abortion clinic. That's what it's called. You heard that right, guys. World's first religious abortion clinic. I'll be talking about that if we have time today. Let's go ahead and jump right on in, though, Moses. Let's give our audience just kind of an overview, a bird's eye view of what has happened this legislative session.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and start breaking that down for them?
Yeah, because things have been moving so quickly, like on a historic level. And you know, this isn't just us saying this. The leaders in the Minnesota House and Senate are saying we're moving at a pace that's faster than the legislature has in a long time, and that's what Minnesotans want. And it's like, well, the first one's probably true. The second one is not true. They're moving so quickly on some of these extreme radical bills that we've talked about, like the PRO Act. So the PRO Act being, as we've already discussed, the first bill introduced and one of the first bills passed this session. It simply does not reflect the reality that 60 to 70% of Minnesotans reject abortion up until the moment of birth, which is what that bill entails. But there's other bills. There's other bills that can fall a little bit under the radar. Most of them we've talked, or all of these that we've talked about on this podcast. So this podcast is the place where you can get informed on these issues, including bills that you won't hear about necessarily in the mainstream media.
That's right.
So the How To Act / the infanticide bill that accompanies the PRO Act, and it basically, people call it the repealer. It repeals a ton of bills, a ton of existing laws, including the Born Alive Infants Protection Act. That we're looking for a possible House floor vote on that coming soon. It just today, Thursday, February 9th, had a hearing of the Senate. So we're watching that. We're trying, our policy team is trying, we're sending out alerts so that you can tell your legislators how you stand on these issues.
That's right. We're
trying to keep that bill from causing more damage. So stay tuned on that. Also, another thing, Grace, the conversion therapy ban. More hearings this week and last week, both, I believe, on that dangerous bill. And, you know, it's just becoming increasingly clear this is a censorship bill of counselors of whatever faith tradition in the area of gender and sexuality. So we're really sad to see that moving forward. Finally, last week we devoted our episode, while you were on the beach in Florida. We devoted our
episode.
Guys,
he keeps throwing me under the bus. It's so rude.
I'm not throwing you under the bus. You went on a plane, and the plane landed in Florida completely by accident,
week before,
I'm sure.
Moses goes on a plane and goes to visit his family for a week and goes out of office.
Yeah,
so,
in Virginia. It was 40 degrees. You were at the beach.
But you were gone for a week as well.
I'm not denying that. Okay, well, it's great to have you back.
Thank you.
I'm sure some people have missed the banter that we have. Maybe other people haven't, but
we will see.
Sorry, guys. It is how it is.
This is the vibe.
So we talked about the kidnapping bill last week, and there will be another hearing on that tomorrow. This time in the Senate, and I will be there. I'm hoping I'll be able to live tweet.
That's right.
The bill. I'm
Follow
also
us.
hoping that Minnesota Family Council will not be the only group testifying against it.
Agree.
This time. We'll see. And it's sad. And the reason I'm highlighting these bills, there's crazy bills introduced every year. You know, there's crazy ones that we're not even going to talk about. But these are the ones that are getting committee hearings, that are getting passed out of committee, that may be set up for either a vote on the floor or to be included in a potential omnibus bill towards the end of the session. And that's why we're calling our attention to these bills, because it's very likely that they will make an attempt to pass them.
Yep. And if you want to stay informed on all of the live tweets, make sure you follow us at MN Family Council on Twitter because, yep, Moses will probably be live tweeting tomorrow on the kidnapping bill.
And yes. And so there's one bill, though, and it is the focus of our show today that we haven't talked about. You referred to it, Grace, and that's specifically targeting in a really, I think, prejudicial way pregnancy resource centers. So some of the bills we've talked about, the PRO Act and HF 91 and the other bill, which we haven't even mentioned, that really allows abortionists to do basically whatever they want in Minnesota without fear of prosecution. Those bills are making things way easier for the abortion industry. So who's the abortion industry's chief competitor? Well, of course, it's pregnancy resource centers who outnumber abortion clinics by some huge ratio. I don't remember the number off the top of my head. There's many of them. They're in almost every community in Minnesota. They're doing amazing work. They're in some ways the heart and soul of the pro-life movement because they're providing care not just to women but to preborn children or vice versa, showing that the pro-life movement is about both women and children. And so one of the things that we have in Minnesota, which is really cool, is called the Positive Alternatives Grant Program, where organizations who support pregnant women can apply for grant funding from the state. It's a pretty small program. It's $3.5 million a year or something like that. Don't quote me on the precise amount. But now there's a bill, and this is...
HF 289.
Thank you. HF 289. So that bill it would change the grant program, not eliminate it, but change it. And the key lines are in the link to the bill will be in the notes here. The key lines are in our 4.11 and 4.12. The organizations, the grantees who are asking for this money from the state, they must refer for abortion on demand. And now proponents of the bill, and I think this is just a straight up lie, they have said this doesn't exclude pregnancy resource centers. Well, yes, it does, because these pregnancy resource centers have been set up by people who are intending to help women choose life. If it's been a more recent thing. I don't know when the first one was set up, but I know that abortion clinics have been around since obviously at least 1973 when Roe v. Wade came down. But these pregnancy resource centers are more recent, and they're trying to give women another option, a better option. And it's really this targeting of pregnancy resource centers really started last year. First of all, we talked about the terrorist attacks on pregnancy resource centers, including here in St. Paul and across the country. But also our own Attorney General, Keith Ellison, let me check this date. Last August, he issued a proclamation saying a consumer alert about crisis pregnancy centers. Basically, he's saying he's supposed to prevent fraud, right, as the Attorney General. And so he's saying that these institutions are fraudulent. And so what he said in his tweet, "You have a constitutionally protected right to abortion in Minnesota. As Minnesota's chief consumer advocate, I've issued an alert. Crisis pregnancy centers often do not offer the services they claim to offer, and the info about abortion and contraception they offer may be inaccurate or misleading." So first of all, his claim is false. I just looked up at the state's list of which organizations, which pregnancy resource centers are getting this money from the state. A lot of them have the word options or choice or services in their title. They often will offer ultrasounds, pregnancy testing, STI testing, parenting classes,
so many things,
diapers. I have through my church, I've helped donate to groups like this. I know, Grace, you volunteer to groups like this, and we're in constant communication with these groups as we talk about this bill and other things. And I looked through the list, and they all had to list the services that they offer, which qualify them for the grant.
Yeah.
And none of them said that they offer abortion. None of them said that. None of them said that they refer for abortion. So when Attorney General Ellison says that crisis pregnancy centers, quote, do not offer the services they claim to offer, it is a steaming pile of... Because it just is. He can't say that. These groups were set up to provide women a choice other than abortion. They're not claiming to provide abortion or refer to abortion because they're trying to get women to not do that.
And because abortion isn't healthcare.
Well,
right?
exactly.
And
there
so
you
they're
go.
providing healthcare for women.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. And healthcare always helps people. It doesn't kill people. Healthcare never kills. And so, of course, pregnancy resource centers, what's going to happen, Moses, is I will let you say what's going to happen because it's your show notes. I won't steal your thunder.
No, go ahead.
Okay, what I was going to say is that so pregnancy resource centers are not going to comply with that requirement that they're going to have to basically any healthcare center, like an abortion clinic. Well, abortion clinics are not healthcare centers, but if an abortion clinic wants to get state funding, it's going to have to refer for abortions or provide abortions.
Right.
Likewise, a pregnancy resource center would have to do that. And so, of course, pregnancy resource centers are not going to do that. They're not going to refer for abortions. They're not going to perform abortions. So they're not going to receive that state money.
Yeah.
Thankfully, pregnancy resource centers are mostly funded by generous donors, pro-lifers, pro-life Christians especially.
Churches.
Yeah, churches. So thankfully, pregnancy resource centers are still going to be alive, thriving, and well if this terrible bill is passed.
Yeah.
But this is just a terrible bill because what it's insinuating is, you're not providing health care if you don't provide access to abortion.
And
that's what the lie is.
Absolutely. And can I say, like, this has really made me want to, and I hope those who are listening and watching do the same. Google which is the closest pregnancy center to me. I actually know exactly where the one that's closest to me is, and I happened to meet someone who was like the son of the director at the library randomly in West St. Paul near where I live, and that I'm going to go write them a check because it is so. I actually noticed that they are on this grantee list, so they do get some of this money. I don't know how much, but it is so important at this time when the number of women seeking abortion in Minnesota is likely to rise. The availability of abortion is likely to rise. Women are going to start coming from out of state, or they're already doing that, are going to come from out of state to get abortions here. It's so important to support these organizations that give women a real choice, that protect children. So there's a really interesting news study, Grace, as we close out this topic, from the research journal Contraception. So this is a peer-reviewed journal. Funny name, but this is from the Washington Stand. I'm quoting, "A new study from the research journal Contraception offers statistics demonstrating the superior assistance that pregnant women are likely to find from pregnancy resource centers compared to abortion businesses. The study concludes that PRCs, on average, offer women shorter wait times and free access to services like pregnancy tests and ultrasound services, for which abortion businesses charge upwards of $24 for pregnancy tests, $162 for ultrasounds. The study is strong methodologically. The authors paired up 445 abortion facilities with a nearby pregnancy help center. Data from all 50 states was collected and analyzed. Dr. Michael New wrote in his analysis of the study for National Review. The authors found that over 68% of pregnancy help centers offered same-day pregnancy visits, as compared with only about 32% of abortion facilities. So for many of the things that a hurting, scared woman who has missed her period might need, a pregnancy test, an ultrasound, your best bet is to go to one of these pregnancy resource centers. You are more likely, more than twice as likely to get in that same day. And that's so important for women to know. So you should be supporting your local pregnancy resource center. I have not been, but I'm going to start. And
Let's go.
Also your church. If you're a church-going person, make sure that your church has... So I haven't supported it myself. I haven't written them a check, but I did. Through my church, I applied for and received a grant, which we did give to a pregnancy resource center. So that was really cool.
Galas with on behalf of MFC before. You've attended pro-life galas, pregnancy resource center galas,
totally.
and that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last thing I wanted to say on this. Teresa Collette is a law professor at the University of St. Thomas. She is one of the smartest people in the state of Minnesota.
She's amazing.
It's incredible to watch her testify against abortion bills. She will tear them apart. She is very gentle, polite to the other testifiers, to the legislators, but she's kind of like pro-life Wonder Woman.
Honestly,
and she's amazing.
Me.
So she wrote an opinion piece for the Pioneer Press last week, and which we shared. But I want to quote from this because I just think it's so good. "The third and final act of this public health tragedy, after the PRO Act,
And the how-to of
and
PRO
the
Act.
how-to of the PRO Act will be the elimination of public support for pregnancy centers. These centers assist pregnant and parenting women in carrying their pregnancies to term while developing healthy habits and stable families. If it were any industry other than the abortion industry, we would recognize this power play for what it is, the elimination of positive alternatives for women and girls who should be affirmed in their choices to bring children into the world.
Good.
It's just so good. Mic drop.
It's so true that, you know, what the radical abortion regime here in Minnesota is trying to do is they're trying to make it so that they say that they're pro-choice, but really they're trying to make abortion the only choice.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to do. So they're not really pro-choice, they're pro-abortion.
Yeah. I just find that so weird. I was just talking to someone about this. Like, it's not abortion for them can't be just a morally neutral thing. It can't even be morally problematic, but it should be legal. It has to be a positive good. We've talked about this before, the shout your abortion thing, and how that's just becoming more prominent, and the idea that people who are offering alternatives to that, organizations that are protecting women and children by offering them choices other than abortion, must be silenced. They must have government grants taken away from them so that the abortion industry is the only voice women hear.
Which it means that the abortion industry is feeling very threatened by pro-lifers and by pregnancy resource centers, because they know pregnancy resource centers are actually providing women with the resources they need.
Absolutely.
So,
and that's a more cheerful note, and that's the direction I want to go in. Grace, I would love to hear, because you're a pro-life activist. You just honestly, between when we started between season 2 of the podcast and season 3 of the podcast, you just started a pro-life students group.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
It's a lot of work, but it's so much fun.
I bet it's a lot of work. And I'm really grateful I got to meet some of Grace's, the folks who are in Grace's Students for Life, Bethlehem
for Life.
Bethlehem for Life.
Where did you meet them? I forgot.
At the PRO Act hearing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or at the
so
at
many
the floor
things happening
vote.
lately.
Yeah. So it's really cool to meet them. And it's just so cool. Grace is putting boots on the ground. Students are making their voices heard. I love that. And so you're in a position, I think, to tell people who are maybe a little bit cynical, a little bit, honestly sad, or even shocked at this legislation we're seeing. How can we continue to fight back?
Right. And I think that's exactly the question that we're all asking. I mean, even I can fall into a sense of futility, even though I know that being faithful is never futile. I know that it is true, but I think that those of us that are in this fight, it's easy to think, wow, it just seems futile right now. And we know it's not the case, but we have that feeling. And I just want you guys to know I'm not immune to that feeling. So the question is, how do we continue to fight the culture war here in Minnesota after PRO Act has passed and we feel like, wow, we lost big time, and we really did lose big time. I'm not gonna, sugarcoat that. I keep thinking to myself, and this is probably what a lot of you guys are thinking, why aren't we having a David and Goliath moment here in Minnesota, right? Why aren't we seeing, okay, all the odds are stacked against us, and yet God's going to come crashing in, and it's going to tear down the strongholds of the wicked, and is totally just going to smite down those that hate children and hate women.
And don't rule that out, guys.
Right, exactly. And I'm going to get to that too. I'm going to get to that. It's so easy to think, God, why? Why aren't you doing that? It reminds me of a line from, I think it's in Prince Caspian. It's one of the Chronicles of Narnia, and Lucy is talking to Aslan, and she says, I thought you'd come roaring in and frighten all the enemies away, like last time, and now everything's going to be horrid. And I think it's easy to fall into that mindset of, why can't you do what you did in the Bible and all those Bible stories where you came in and you changed things so dramatically with just the flick of your hand or a single word. And I think that really just shows our pride, my pride and our pride, in thinking that God, like you say, God could absolutely just go do that. He could do it at any time. This PRO Act does not thwart his plan. God can strike it down at any moment in time. And things never happen the same way twice. That's what Aslan tells Lucy when she's saying this. Things don't happen the same way twice. God doesn't come in and bring victory in the exact same way. His plans are so much bigger than our plans, right?
Absolutely.
He's going to bring victory. We know he will, but he's not going to do it on our clock. He's not going to do it when we say, we want it now, do it now. Sometimes he does answer prayers, and it's a really amazing thing, but usually he answers prayers in a way that we don't expect. He always answers. He's always listening. But sometimes it's not, oh, I asked for this at this exact time in this exact way, and then God goes and answers it.
Right.
And so that's just kind of the thought process that I'm explaining to you guys. My dear friend, Abigail Dodds, she is an awesome inspiration to me. She's a wife, she's a mom, she's a graduate of my school, actually, and she's a writer for World. She really put into words how I think that Christians should be responding to this, given our questions of why aren't we having our David and Goliath moment? Why does it seem like things are so futile? So this is an article for World. We'll have it linked in the description, and I will go through the 5 ways that she says that Christians can advance the pro-life witness in a state like Minnesota that is trending pro-abortion, because we are trending pro-abortion right now. But here are the ways that we can build a culture of life. Number 1, she says, we need to stay put in Minnesota. We should not be leaving Minnesota. And I've been thinking about this a lot recently. It's easy to buy into this escapist mindset of, if we move to another state, okay, like say we move to Texas, right? Or Florida. Like if we move to another state, it's a lot more pro-life. It's a lot, culturally better, we would say, in a lot of ways. But really, that's not the right reaction from us, I would argue. Because if we think that going to Texas or Florida or another more pro-life state is going to help us escape the evil, actually there's going to be a lot of evil there still. Like we're not going to escape evil by going to a state that is more pro-life. Sure, it'll be more pro-life, but there are still going to be evil laws being pushed. There are still going to be politicians that are pushing very wicked things. And so she says, in the article, Abigail Dodd says this. She says, quote, we are too easily fooled into thinking we can't win, when in reality, pro-abortion legislation is not a slam dunk. Even in Minnesota, it is passed by the narrowest of margins.
1 vote.
With enough work and commitment, we can win this fight. And I thought that was so powerful and so well put, because it is so true. It's easy to get caught in the mindset of, wow, this is just so bad. And it is really bad, guys. But this passed by 1 vote, and it goes to show that elections matter, and Christians, your voice matters in elections. Your vote is of utmost importance, because the 1 seat can flip everything. And so think about it. Next election, we could be in the position, if we start putting down roots and being faithful, we could be in a position where we are in a 1 vote pro-life majority, and we can push a lot of really awesome legislation. And so it's good to remember that, and remember that we need to stay in our state. Now, she says a lot of other good things. The second thing she says that we should do is we should love our state. And that's awesome too, because it's true, we're disgusted by this terrible legislation. It's awful, but we love the state of Minnesota.
Yes.
We love her lakes. We love the North Shore. We love the city. I love my city. I love Minneapolis. That's where I live. Like, I love my city. And
St. Paul is better.
But I love Minneapolis. And I love the people of Minnesota. And Abigail Dodd says that too. She says, I love the people of Minnesota. She loves their hot dishes. And that's why we're fighting for Minnesota, right? Yes. That is why we're fighting, because we love our state.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear, sorry to interrupt. I'm really glad to hear when Arkansas makes it, makes it easier to be a pro-life person there. And when Arkansas protects kids, that's wonderful. I'm so glad for that, for people who live in Arkansas. But I live in Minnesota, and I have roots here. And I, as you say, I love this place. And you know what? A lot of Minnesotans, as many Minnesotans know, it really is the best state. this whole wave of insanity, notwithstanding, it still is. It's rated one of the best places to live, one of the best places to raise a family, and we all know that. And for many of us, that's why we chose to come here, or why we choose to stay here. But continue.
Third thing that my friend Abigail Dodd says, she says that we should petition the God who hears. So true. We need to remember to pray boldly, because as we've talked about before in this podcast, as the president of my school constantly says, prayer is action. So do not forget to pray. It is the most powerful weapon we have. Fourth, we must sacrificially show our love, she says. We must give money and time. And that goes back to what Moses and I were getting at the beginning of this podcast episode, which is we need to be rooted in our community. We need to be volunteering at our pregnancy resource centers. So if you want to find your closest pregnancy resource center, what you can do is go to cradleofhope.org, and you can just click on the map and you'll see where all of the pregnancy resource centers are. That's cradleofhope.org. And you can see and get plugged into the closest one to you and be the hands and feet of Jesus, quite literally. Go and volunteer. Go to their open houses. Go to their fundraising events. Connect a pregnancy resource center to your church if they aren't already.
Yes.
Many churches are. But make sure that your church, is linking arms in the pregnancy resource centers because they are on the ground every single day fighting for women, girls, and children and are there. They're the support that they so desperately need in usually very dark times. And so make sure you are funding pregnancy resource centers or volunteering, or even better yet, both. The fifth thing that you can do, again, this is what Abigail Dodds says. She says that we can witness to the truth of the dignity of the preborn child. Speak to children, neighbors, and friends about this. That is so true. I talk about this all the time on the podcast. Hearts and minds change when they are confronted with the simple truths about the humanity of the preborn and the hope that there is in choosing life. Most Minnesotans are not like the, I would say, wicked legislators that we are seeing pushing this terrible legislation. They are not on the same wavelength. Moses has pointed this out multiple times. Other people on the podcast have pointed this out. What we're seeing is very radical, very extreme from our pro-abortion legislators, but that is not how most Minnesotans are thinking about this. Most Minnesotans don't know the truth about fetal development. They maybe haven't thought too deeply about, okay, if life begins at conception, what does that look like? They also probably don't even know about pregnancy resource centers or all of the options available to women. So make sure you are speaking up.
And most of them don't know, especially since it just happened. Most people don't know that in Minnesota, abortion is now legal until the moment of birth. They do not know that Minnesota is set to become an abortion destination where people are coming from all over the country to access so-called abortion care in our state, potentially paid for by you and I, Minnesota taxpayers. People don't know these things. And if they did know them, how do you think they would respond? Do you think they would be like, yeehaw, no, that's not what people want.
The truth will set you free, right?
Absolutely.
I want to end just this portion of the podcast with a quote from the same article by Abigail Dodds. She says, "If the overturning of Roe taught us anything, it is that the battle is winnable for those who patiently play the long game." Mic drop moment. So good.
Absolutely.
So true. I mean, what we saw when Roe v. Wade was overturned was about 50 years of pro-life activists and pro-life Christians working diligently and faithfully. And of course, they were overcome with a sense of futility time and time again. Of course, sometimes they felt, wow, it just really feels like we're not going to win this, but we're going to keep pressing on. We're going to keep being faithful. And you know what? That's exactly what we're called to right now. We're called to be faithful. We're called to press on, and we're called to play the long game. We're in it for the long haul. We're going to push on for wins. But hey, if it takes us another 50 years to turn Minnesota pro-life, you better believe I'm going to be here fighting for that. Right, Moses?
Absolutely, 100%. I hope my grandkids are here fighting for that.
That's right.
If that's what's required. Yeah. So we, I don't think we're going too long. Grace, I would love if you took just a minute or two to tell us about this insanity that you mentioned with the Satanic Temple, because and I think what people should know is that the Satanic Temple is not really a religious organization that worships Satan. They are not. They are an organization. They're a gadfly. Do you remember the flying spaghetti monster thing? Is that before your time?
Sorry. I think it's probably either before my time or I'm just ignorant.
No. I see it less and less. So it used to be you'd see this bumper sticker. It was supposed to be like a Jesus fish, but it was a flying spaghetti monster. It would say FSM. And it was this completely made up fake deity. And the idea was, God is ridiculous. It's ridiculous to believe in God. Therefore, we're going to just say that we believe in the flying spaghetti monster. And the flying spaghetti monster told me that it's amazing to be all these things that Christians hate, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a fake religion. The Satanic Temple is the same thing. They're not actually Satan worshipers. What they're trying to do, at least to my knowledge, there are real Satanists, but generally the Satanic Temple they're trying to make problems for people with the way that they're using so-called the religious freedom is wonderful, but for them it's questionable to me whether they're a religion, and so questionable whether religious freedom applies to them. But anyway, what are they up to?
Okay, I'll break it down as briefly as I can for you guys, being mindful of your time. So the Satanic Temple has opened the world's first quote-unquote religious abortion clinic. You heard that right. Yep, that's what they're doing. They are, I'm reading from Breitbart. This is an article from Breitbart. They reported on this. They are going to offer quote-unquote abortion rituals, and this specific healthcare center, quote unquote, again, is going to be named after Samuel Alito's mother, because this was the justice again that wrote the opinion piece in the overturning of Roe v. Wade, which saved so many unborn lives. Anyway, so it's going to be called the Samuel Alito's Mom's Satanic Abortion Clinic. That's literally what they're calling this.
I thought I saw that. I wondered.
Yeah.
Is this because they think that their case is going to go to the Supreme Court over this, and like they think Samuel Alito is going to have to recuse himself from the case?
It's just
good luck with that.
I don't know what's going on. So this is going to be a telehealth facility. Actually, it's going to offer telehealth visits, and it's rooted in New Mexico, and it's quote unquote again Breitbart reporting for those who wish to participate in the Satanic Temple's abortion ritual in states where abortion has been banned. It will also prescribe abortion pills for $90, which the Satanic Temple said will be discreetly mailed to them by a pharmacy partner. So they describe, the Satanic Health Temple describes the abortion ritual as a quote-unquote protective rite designed to cast off unwanted feelings associated with taking the life of an unborn child. So, wow, okay, a lot of information right there. Mainly what you need to know is there is a clinic that is opening up in New Mexico that is trying to operate under the guise of religious freedom. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But I want to talk about right now, really quickly, just how the religious ritual, quote unquote, of abortion, which is what they're calling it, a religious ritual, actually includes the recitation of two of their key tenets, the Satanic Temple's tenets, their third and their fifth tenets. And I want to break them down for you guys. We've talked about some of their tenets before, way back in like season 1, I think. But I just want to point out the importance of logical reasoning, folks. Mm-hmm. Use your brain, truly. Okay, so tenet 3, this is a tenet that they state during one of these abortion procedures, which they're calling a religious rite. The tenet 3 states, one body is inviolable, subject to one's will alone. And then their fifth tenet, which is the other one that they will state, is beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care never to distort scientific facts to fit one's beliefs. Now, I hope when you were listening to that, you were thinking, that sounds pretty self-refuting, Grace. Mm-hmm. That's true. These tenets are very self-refuting because, okay, so tenet 3 talks about how your body is subject to your will alone. Basically, it's all about bodily autonomy, right? Mm-hmm. Well, it's very self-refuting because every single abortion undermines a preborn child's right to his own body. Mm-hmm. The child's right to his own body is never considered in an abortion. It is always bypassed. The child is always ripped apart, limb by limb, or starved, dismembered, skull is crushed. These are all very, very common tactics of abortion. Where's the baby's rights, right? Where is the will of the child? Where is his bodily autonomy or her bodily autonomy? So that's self-refuting. The fifth tenet, again, talks about science, raising science up on a pedestal, how our beliefs should always be conformed to science, right? Mm-hmm. Well, as we know, the pro-abortion lobby is always distorting the scientific facts to fit their own beliefs. The science is absolutely crystal clear that life begins at conception. So what we're really seeing from the Satanic Temple, from other pro-abortion advocates, is a denial of scientific fact to fit their beliefs. And yet, we always see them saying, I'm on the side of science. I'm on the side of science, guys. We are the scientific ones. Actually, no. You're denying very basic biology when life begins. So I just wanted to throw that out there for you guys, just as a reminder. Use your logical reasoning. There's a lot of euphemisms floating around.
I have a joke for you, just summing this up in one line. It's just, it's not one of those call and response jokes. It's just a joke. I'm on the side of science, said the Satanist.
Truly, truly.
There's no universe in which that makes sense.
No. So what we're seeing here, you guys, is the Satanic Temple. They're trying to justify murder with the right that we do have to religious freedom. That's what they're trying to do. But as Moses and I talked about offline, the bottom line is this: religious freedom never extends to taking the life of any innocent person. It never does. No, you do not have the religious right, no matter what your religion teaches, to go murder someone or to hurt someone with your body. You do not have the right to do that. So that is not religious freedom. Something else I wanted to point out briefly, and then we will move on and close out our episode, is the fact that child sacrifice is not something that is new. What we're seeing right here is a celebration of child sacrifice, and they're trying to use religious freedom to justify that. We'll see how that works out for them, right? Yeah. God will not be mocked. But child sacrifice is not new. The Aztecs cut their children's hearts out to appease the gods of rain and war. The Incas sacrificed their children. The Canaanites played loud drums to drown out the squeals of child sacrifice, not exaggerating. And it was with the rise of Christianity, you guys, that child sacrifice on a large scale was ended for a time. And so if we want to stop this, what we need to do is we need to raise up bold Christians. We need to have children and raise them up. We need to really just build a culture of Christianity that is so robust and so joyful that child sacrifice is something that people look at and are disgusted by.
Absolutely.
Because Christianity is doing its job. So the good news is God is going to put all to right in our world. It just might not look like how we're expecting. It might not happen exactly when we want. But just going back to what I was saying earlier, let's not be so prideful that we think that we are above God's plan, and we think that our way is best. God's way is best. God is doing something. I don't know exactly what he's up to right now, but you know what? I know that he's going to come in victorious, and he's going to absolutely smite down those who celebrate child sacrifice, whether it's in New Mexico or whether it's here in Minnesota. And it might take 50 years, it might take 1 year, it might take 1 week. We don't know, but it's going to happen. So, sorry, thanks for indulging me on that, guys. It's just important for you guys to be aware of. Let's talk about how people can really get involved. There are two main ways I would say people can get involved right now. One is monetarily supporting our work. And then the second one is participating in a pro-life event that is going to be awesome. So, Moses, we want to break those down for us?
Yeah, and you know, Abigail Dodds actually referenced this in her piece. She said this is a and she actually linked to our website. This is a time when pro-life advocacy groups like Minnesota Family Council, I'm just so glad for that shout out. Pro-life advocacy groups like Minnesota Family Council need your support. We need the resources to be able to be your voice for life, family, and religious freedom at the Capitol. We're doing that right now thanks to the generous gifts that were given to us through the past year. We have the budget to do this work. So please do consider your contribution now is so crucial. It's crucial during the legislative session more than ever. Now, I want to talk finally
to donate.
Oh yeah, go to mfc.org/donate, and you can make a tax-deductible donation or a non-deductible donation depending on what suits you.
And just a quick reminder, sorry, but is sometimes we are the only groups testifying against these terrible bills. Sometimes it is only us up there, and we are so joyful to be able to be up there fighting for children, fighting for Minnesota, fighting to protect women. We are so grateful for that opportunity, but sometimes it's only us, so we really do need your support.
Absolutely. Lastly, as we mentioned over the past few weeks, you really need to check out the United for Life event. That's happening February 28th. That's a Tuesday. Be at the Capitol at 10:30 a.m. Please register in advance so we can set you up to meet with your legislator. This is so important. I've been told we already have almost people from almost every legislative district in the state represented in the people who have registered, which is awesome. Huge. Yeah, and that is such a big thing. We're promoting this to churches. We're promoting this to anyone who will come. I've been on the phone with sponsors just today. Every pro-life advocacy organization in the state, a bunch of the biggest religious organizations, including the Catholic Church, the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, are coming together to say that Minnesota will not stand for this pro-abortion regime. We will fight back. We will be United for Life. So I hope to see you on February 28th at the Capitol. Now, as we close out our episode, Grace, this is I don't want to do this every other episode. I just need to get this out. What are you reading right now?
Great question. Okay, I'm reading a lot of books for school, but I won't go into all of those. A lot of books there. But what I'm reading for fun right now, given all of, just the darkness that is indeed surrounding our state, and especially our state capital right now, I need something light. So I'm reading The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis.
Nice.
It's a good, tried and true. I just listen to it on Audible whenever I have a chance. To be honest, those moments are very far between right now because we are busy fighting on the front lines every single day. And so, I'm listening to that. And honestly, that's the only extracurricular thing I'm reading right now. So how about you, Moses?
Yeah, I'll keep it short. And I think I might have mentioned this last week, but not to you because you were in Florida at the beach.
Oh boy, here we go again. The guilt trip.
I'm reading Kristen Lavren's Daughter, and it's one big book, which is usually published in 3 separate volumes, kind of like Lord of the Rings. and it's this story of this medieval Norwegian woman, and it won the Nobel Prize for literature, and it's just incredible. It's about Christianity. It's about guilt. It's about so many things that are, it just speaks to my soul. My wife has been telling me to read it for like 3 or 4 years, and I finally did, and it's amazing. I'm not quite halfway through the second volume, and I'm already like, oh my gosh, this is the last time that will be the first time for me reading this. Like, this is such a precious book, and the end is in sight, and it's so sad. I'm also reading my audiobook right now is Collapse: The Fall of the Soviet Union by Vladislav Zubak.
Good job pronouncing that. I would butcher it.
Well, I don't know if that's right. I mean, that's just what it looks like to me. Which is a really fun book. Basically, the USSR collapsed because Gorbachev was kind of like a character on My Little Pony. He had the will to power of one of the ponies from My Little Pony. That is my completely off-topic way of bringing this in for landing grace. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Family Beacon this week. We bring you the facts so that you can stand for truth. A lot of facts this week.
Yep. Tune in every Friday. Don't forget, every single Friday we have a new podcast episode coming out. Also, I actually wanted to mention, I don't know if you mentioned this last week, but we do have a new videographer. She's awesome. And so if you have noticed an increase, a severe increase, like a very drastic increase in the quality of our production, that is thanks to her. She's incredible. She's knocking it out of the park. All shout outs go to her. Continue to stay tuned. We'll probably have more improvements coming soon. So
absolutely. So until next week, this has been Moses Bradford and Grace Evans from the Family Beacon at Minnesota Family Council. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to or watching this episode of the Family Beacon podcast from Minnesota Family Council. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you're up to date on life, family, and religious freedom. You can follow us on Instagram at MN Family Council and subscribe to us on YouTube to watch our content. Get the facts, stand for truth.